If you're looking for a cute puzzle game to enjoy with your children, I highly recommend REANIMal. Play alone or together with a friend in couch co-op in this game about a young brother playing dress-up with his little sister while holding her by the hand as they search for her missing stuffed bunny. Shit. Let's take that from the top. If you're looking for a psychological horror game with sometimes obtuse guess and check type puzzles taking place in a twisted world that is as close as it can be to being fucked up beyond all recognition, a game that will challenge you with its dark themes and obtuse story, I highly recommend checking out REANIMal. While you can, in fact, play alone or together with a friend in couch co-op in this game about a young brother leading his little sister through hell while pulling her behind him on a rope while they search for her butchered bunny, I chose to play alone. In my approach to dissecting this gruesome horror game by Swedish developer Tarsier Studios, known for Little Nightmares 1 and 2, which I have yet to play, but after this I will absolutely be checking out. I will be focusing on my interpretation of the game through metaphor, rather than a literal interpretation of just what the fuck is happening in this game. I will be doing this for two reasons. Number one, I absolutely have no goddamn clue what is actually happening. I have a vague idea, but the actual what and why is intentionally vague. Two, about halfway through the short 4 hours I spent playing through this game, I reframed the game as a metaphor in my own head, and this made the game all that much more powerful to me. Please understand this is my living, experience-inspired interpretation of this game. While I am bound to hit on an idea or two that they may have had while in development of the game, in no way am I arguing this interpretation was the creator's intended meaning. Nonetheless, this is what I took away. The story opens on a shot looking up at the sky from within a water well. Oftentimes, this is used to represent the limited perspective of the outside world. One by one, 5 masked children lean over the well and look inside. Soon, a loud sound comes, and the sky turns from white to looking like it is suddenly in flames. My interpretation of this is that a new world, a new realm if you will, has suddenly opened up and been brought to their world. As the player, I'm left confused, curious, and wanting to know more about what is going on in the world outside the well. But that's the point. The truth is being held back from us. To me, it was only after reaching the ending that I came to understand the game to be from the girl's perspective, even though I played as the young boy, because I played single player for most of the game. At the game's end, you learn as the young girl who has been thrown into the well, in what seems to be some sort of magical soul sacrifice ritual that seemingly bring creatures from another realm into our own. This is a strange story indeed. While in the well, the girl seems to be possessed by an evil spirit that is in the form of a lamb. In this case, the first animal parallel can be drawn to a sacrificial lamb. According to David Mervick, narrative director of the game, in an interview with Polygon, originally we wanted to call the game Animal, Mervick said. There's something that we really liked about the layers of meaning in that word. If you call someone an animal, that's not a compliment. At the same time, animals can be cute. Animals can be pure and innocent. And animals can be violated and defiled, depending on where they end up. So the things that spring out of just being an animal really resonated with us for what we explore in this game. Lambs most often represent innocence. Throughout the game, we are led to believe the children are all innocent in whatever has happened to make this world what it is, only to have the rug pulled out from under us at the end to reveal they may have, in fact, been the ones who brought on the apocalypse. So that's how I'll be looking at this story, through the lens not of lost innocence, but of a cycle of corrupted innocence as a result of violence and the trauma that it brings. Back to the opening shot, in literature, being in a well represents a descent into the subconscious mind to confront deep fears, memories, or truths. And that is how I'm going to approach the analysis of this game. Each level, each story beat, is a journey through the 5 characters' subconscious minds to confront their deepest fears, memories, and ultimately, the truth. The hardest part, what is a memory versus only a fear? But that was never the point. All fears are true, regardless of if they're real. We pan to a lone boy on a boat. Nothing but an ominous red light to guide him in the right direction, or the wrong direction. In general, red lights mark dangers. In this case, the first glimpse of the light looks not unlike the sky created when the children sacrificed the lamb in the well in the opening shot of the game, as if to say, the hell you created awaits. Soon, the boat comes to a stop as the boy looks over the side into the water, then pulls a girl from the water. The girl, it turns out, is the same girl as the one who, it will be revealed, is sacrificed by the other children come the game's end. At first, the girl attacks the boy, And this time the lights aren't flashing red, as they will be later on when they indicate she has been possessed or corrupted by the innocent lamb she will later spit out of her mouth. To me, this means she remembers the boy did something evil. Perhaps she doesn't know what. Perhaps it's still buried deep within her, waiting to come out. The boy says to her,
I thought you were dead.
My interpretation of this is the game is presented to us out of order. Post-credits. After it is revealed the children sacrifice the girl down the well at some point, an image of water flooding from the well is shown. This to me shows that the flood that has consumed the city may have come from the sacrifice of the girl, rather than the lamb. So, everything that comes after, to me, is a result of the sacrifice of the girl. As their boat enters a channel, the red buoy hovers on their left side. At sea, a red buoy on the right side indicates safe passage. And this is not safe passage indeed. We soon come upon an enormous mine in the water. In psychology, mines symbolize a power that coerces or restricts movement, acting as a physical embodiment of a threat. And interestingly enough, each of the horrible creatures, such as the sniffer, who we will soon meet, do the same. At the same time, my understanding is the girl doesn't yet remember all the details of her death. And the mines may also represent the unresolved past issue that is the cause of her death, that may cause massively destructive emotional explosions, if uncovered, and brought back to life. Again, see the flashing red lights later on. Additionally, and perhaps more practically, the children seem to live in a world that is perhaps amidst World War I, and the mines are a reminder of the legacy of that war, serving as a reminder of the violence that has not stopped. At this point, the children pull onto shore, only to find discarded luggage on an unimpressive beach. Sometimes, discarded luggage is used to show abandonment. Not to mention it brings on vibes and reminders of people fleeing a war-torn city. And that brings us to the next found child, and the abandoned city we must face to find him.
You came back. I knew you would. You should leave. While you still can.
When the kid says this, I now read it as him saying the girl should leave this place before it's too late. As we will find later, the other children, all except the girl, have coffins that can be found in the game. The girl, instead of having a shadow of her own image, it's a shadow of a rabbit running away. Perhaps the girl's soul is not yet stuck in this place. She still has a means to leave. But when you find the coffin of this boy, you find he was shot to death as if gunned down by a shooting squad. Behind his coffin sits a truck full of dozens more coffins of people who likely died just like him when trying to flee the city. In this war-torn city, signs of violence are everywhere. Signs of abandonment are everywhere, as too are the signs of the trauma the child faced until his ultimate death. And this is where the game became about something else to me. Something other than a simple horror game that goes down a rabbit hole into a surreal place. The game became to me about taking care of these children. These kids who have faced violent trauma of all sorts. This boy, perhaps left alone in an abandoned city when his parents went off to war. Like the kid in the bucket hat, who we find later on ends up in an orphanage. Or the main character I've been controlling all this time, who ends up in what appears to be a prison, perhaps being hung for his crimes. Another child seems to die by a nearby explosion, perhaps a bystander in a battle, or maybe even forced to become a child soldier. Even the girl, who ends up the victim of ritualistic violence, meant to end whatever this cycle of violence is, falls prey to the same violence. Nonetheless. For each of these kids, the violence they face transforms them, corrupts their innocence to the point where they are willing to sacrifice a girl in order to end it. Ending violence with violence never works. It seems to me this does little more than feed the first sacrificial lamb that they found in the well, or perhaps threw down themselves. Their act feeds this corrupted lamb until it consumes everyone and everything in its path. So, for the rest of my playthrough, this is how I approached every monster, every horror. I looked at it as a fear or trauma the child being saved must have faced, and acted as though we were all in this together, helping one another to escape that thing. The sniffer seemed to be a creature that preyed on young children, whether it be by serving them ice cream, riding a tricycle, or simply hiding as a snake in the grass that would come up and bite them when they least expect it. Later, the spider acts as an abusive headmaster at an orphanage, where the kids all become petrified, as is a common psychological response where one freezes when the act of fight or flight seems impossible. Another child, found in a cage not far from a farm, is locked in a cage by a giant pelican. Historically, pelicans and their large pouch represent the extreme capacity for nurturing. However, in this case, as is true in other stories, the pelican is depicted as a violent abuser of the young. Time and time again, the game depicts horrors that could be seen to represent the horrible violence and abuse done to children. Not unlike children who see everything through a warped sense of perception, the monsters are larger than life, almost mythical. According to ResearchGate, children in traumatic situations often perceive danger as monsters, using fantasy to process extreme fear, violence, or neglect. This displacement projects terror onto imaginary figures to manage overwhelming anxiety, often replacing the scary reality of a known caregiver with a monstrous, unknown figure. Monsters represent intense, complex emotions, fear, anger, horror, that children cannot verbalize. They represent the fragmented memory and abject horror of traumatic events. To return to the quote from David Mervick, narrative director of the game, "Originally we wanted to call the game Animal," Mervick said. "There's something that we really liked about the layers of meaning in the word. If you call someone an animal, that's not a compliment. And at the same time, animals can be cute, animals can be pure and innocent, and animals can be violated and defiled, depending on where they end up. The animals who became monsters, who preyed on the innocent animals among them, whether it's an abuser who kept them in a cage or a group of friends who, despite once being innocent themselves, became monsters themselves. This is what makes REANIMAL so horrifying. For all its surrealism, the reality of the experiences of these children is all too real. I don't believe it was an accident the game chose to end on a chapter about war, the most animalistic of humanity's obsessions, and perhaps its most trauma-inducing for all involved. The first soldier you meet turns the gun on himself, and soldier after soldier, all through the trench, commit suicide. In the immediate post-World War I period, it is thought that nearly 80% of suicides were veterans. Again, even for children, experiencing war, or any sustained violence for that matter, can flood their nervous system with cortisol, potentially rewiring their brain for constant fight or flight response. Again, what if this whole game is just that? A look inside a child's mind as it is flooded with the constant need to either run or freeze, to fight or flee, to see monsters where perhaps none exist. In an article in Psychology Today, some advice was given on how to overcome childhood trauma that might remain in your own inner child. The author suggests writing a letter, showing your younger self the kindness that they may have needed at a particularly difficult time growing up. This functions as a process of reparenting. It gives your younger self the validation and protection you did not receive. This reparenting technique is a common tool used for those trying to heal from unresolved trauma faced as a child. While I personally have not dealt with violence or abuse in the ways depicted in this game, I do recall difficult times where, unbeknownst to me, I was struggling with severe depression as a child. Oftentimes, the only way for me to handle this was to sit alone in the basement and play video games. Through them, I saw the monsters I was facing, and I slayed those motherfuckers over and over until I made it through the day. In Dr. Charles Whitfield's work, which in my quick research appears to be the foundational work on the topic, Healing the Child Within, he recommends a few things that I found helpful. First, he recommends that you acknowledge and recognize that your inner child exists, that their experiences were real, and their pain was not their fault. 2, actively say, "I see you, I hear you, I love you, and you are enough." And 3, write letters to your inner child, asking them about their needs and desires, or write to your adult self from the child's perspective. What follows is my honest attempt to accomplish each of these 3 things in a letter written to my childhood self at what I recall being my most depressed and lonely time. Because as Theo Von once said,
and so it's moments like this, where I can have an honest conversation with somebody. I'd have given anything, to have these as a child. And children need these sort of things.
So, here it goes. Hey kid, what game are you playing right now? Probably Halo 3, or maybe Arkham Asylum. Whichever game it is, I envy you. I look back on all of them with nostalgia. Some of my greatest memories, even though you oftentimes feel like crying as you play your game, think about how lonely you feel, or sitting right where you are, playing those games and talking to no one but myself. I look back on those memories fondly, now that I'm older. I'm sorry you feel so lonely, and it's okay if you do too. You're right, you do have it pretty nice, even though there are rats currently gnawing on the wall off to your left. But for all you have, it's okay to feel pain for the things in life that give you no other choice. Mom and Dad probably are shaming you for sitting down there with the rats. Though they do so many things right, and they mean well, they don't quite get why you're sitting there alone. But I do, and I am thankful you are doing exactly what you are. I understand what it's like to go to school and dread lunch, to leave almost every day with tears forming in your eyes because you just want to crawl out of your own skin, because no matter where you sit, you feel like you are sitting alone. I understand your desire to be around people, even though you are unable to talk to them without shaking. The reason you play so many sports to fend off the crippling depression that comes on the moment you stop moving. The reason you can't bring yourself to not disguise your voice when you talk to people even on Xbox Live. You don't know what it's called yet, They didn't used to teach about mental health too much in school. But don't worry, you will make sure they are better about that in school when you get older. You won't believe this, but someday you'll become a teacher. You'll even help out a couple of kids who have no one else they can talk to. Does this make you proud? I know it will. All the things you have, a loving family, a home with food, clothes, and a bed. But that doesn't mean life isn't hard. Sorry they won't stop telling you how quiet you are. They don't get social anxiety. Most of them never will. But I have good news. You already have everyone you will ever need, and he's sitting right there with you right now, just like you're sitting here with me as I write this. You'll find life moves in a circle for you. After spending a decade or so fighting, doing things I shouldn't have, to change our personality, to better be able to be sociable, to better be able to fit in. Because I made the mistake of listening to the world when they told me I was flawed for being who I was. Who I am, I have spent the last few years trying to get back the person who you are right now. As much as you are trying to leave him behind, I am just now finding you again, and I missed you. As much as you are uncomfortable with yourself, you are also discovering something most of them never will. You are learning you are enough for yourself. I see you, and I love you, kid. I love you for who you are, not for who you could or should be, but for who you are. In a world that talks too much, I appreciate the way you listen to yourself and to others who need it. Your introspection is crippling at times, but it is also your greatest gift. Keep building it. Keep sitting alone and thinking and listening to others, even if it's through a video game, even when it's hard. You are not alone. You'll always be with me. Come the end credits, I only wish the game had ended on a similar note. Rather than leaving us on what seems to be a dark and final loss, where the monsters perhaps have won, where the corrupted innocence consumes all that was left of the children's psyche, I wish they had left us with hope for these children. Or perhaps they did. Perhaps in the same way, the evil sheep climbed its way out of the girl's mouth after being dropped into the well. Now that she is the one in the belly of the beast herself, maybe she too will climb her way out. And this time, maybe she too will get the chance to slay those motherfuckers. Just kidding. That would do nothing but continue this cycle of violence that seems to be going on and on with no end in sight. My real hope is when she returns again, she comes back as one resurrected, pure, innocent, and ready to put a real end through kindness and grace.